Welcome back to the Better Man podcast. First one.
2021.
That's right.
2021. Wow.
It is crazy to think about that and wondering, if 2021 is going to be different, better, worse than 2020. I know there's a lot of questions rolling around that. Excuse me.
And you don't know? You don't have any insight, any wisdom, or
no prophetic vision that's come to me and said,
Me
"Hey,
either.
this is." I think it's just going to continually be a process of working through and trusting God.
Yeah, I think that's what it taught me. 2020 did is, you thought you could plan ahead. You thought we had control of this stuff, but we figured out we didn't. And the only thing that does have control and we can completely trust is God. And so it gives us an opportunity as we go into 2021 to take what we learned in 2020 and apply that. And hopefully, no matter what happens, we continue to grow our relationship with God and continue to be the men God created us to be, which is why we're here.
Absolutely. And just for those of you who are new, who are listening, my name is Colby Taylor.
I'm Dr. Kim.
And we are thankful and overjoyed that you guys decided to join us today. So thank you for being a part of the Better Man podcast. Continue to spread the word. Continue to tell people about it because we believe this is something that is needed. So, and speaking of just what it looks like to trust God and knowing that, what you learned from 2021, there's what kind of applies to what we're talking about today, which is contentment. It's the last part of our 3-part series. And I think we didn't plan it this way. It's all God, but it's applicable, I think, for what we're the start of the new year and what contentment may look like in our lives in 2021 and what we can go about that. But it's our last part of the 3-part series, Unsettled, and this is settling for contentment. And what does that look like in our lives? Which I honestly think there's a lot of great things about contentment.
Yeah.
So for us in general and our different, what does contentment look like for us today in our lives?
I think it's when we're really comfortable with where we are and we're not as distracted by external things, other things. Probably the best example is the Apostle Paul when he was in prison. And I just don't get how he got there, but it was like, kill me, I'm okay, let me live, I'm okay. Whatever it was, he was content with where he is. I think in our culture, it is so difficult to be content with where we are.
Man.
I can think I'm so content. I love this car that I've been driving for 5 years. I love that car. And then my neighbor gets a brand new car and pulls in the driveway, and it's like, my car really looks old and dirty, and and we can
Even though it's only a 5-year-old Bugatti, which is crazy. Think about it.
Well, yeah, I miss the rolls. Yeah. So, it's so easy. You're on, and I think technology doesn't help us. They know what I buy. And so I'm looking at some game or something, and all of a sudden it pops up something from a company that I buy from with a new product. And so do I need that over that? And so I think contentment is such a wonderful place to be. And I think it's hard for us to be there consistently. It's different than what we talked about in the last episode as comfort. Contentment is just being okay with where you are right now and who's in your life and what you have and if God brings you something else, great. If he takes something away, great. Just being content. And I think by doing that, we're focusing on the most important things. We're focusing on God. We're talking about spouse. We're talking about family and the things that really make life worth living.
Absolutely. And there's an ancient Japanese proverb that talks about if you're a pig farmer, but that you enjoy being a pig farmer, then you live a blessed life. And there's something to be said for the way that we look at in America, that there's always got to be the next best thing. Like you always got to be climbing that ladder of success. That completely goes against biblical, what the Bible teaches, what Jesus teaches us, but it's such an easy thing for us to get caught up in doing. I love some of the illustrations that you have from the church in China and what they work through, and they're always thankful for what they have, even though they have very little and they're oppressed and there's persecution and all that kind of stuff. They're content to be able to worship God in the way that they are doing, even though at times it's difficult. And we in America have this overwhelming desire or thought, if you will, and to move forward and to not be content. And some of that boils down to comparing and contrasting to people like you're talking about new cars, whatever's on the Apple, whatever might be coming up that you have to have. Christmas is we just had that. It's a big thing. Like, hey, you got to have all these stuff to make yourself happy. Never make us happy. But we start comparing ourselves to other people. What does comparing do when it comes to contentment?
I think it just totally distracts us from contentment. I think it's just totally off, because there's always, if you're comparing, there's always going to be something or somebody better or worse. I mean, you're never gonna, and it's like when you add another rung to the ladder. Okay, I bought that car like my neighbor had. Whew, there's a new model next year. There's always another rung. Always something else. And so you keep yourself trying to continue to climb that ladder instead of enjoying what you have. And I think we just miss out on life that way.
We do. I know for myself, and I'm 40 now, and we've taken this step to move into a ministry life, and there's been times where I've been doing things I don't want to do per se, just to help continue to move forward our ministry. And one of those things was I was doing some landscaping, and I'm helping out with this guy's house and doing some landscaping for him. And he was telling me all the things that he was doing success wise. He was having, that beautiful house. And I'm just sitting there like lower and lower and lower. Like I suck at life because I'm comparing myself to him and what his success is, when that is not at all what God's success looks like for me. It's a completely different thing. But when I start doing that, I found that, man, it got me in a really bad rut for a long time. Right. And I wasn't content with what God had given, what I was supposed to be. I was looking for saying, hey, if I was in his position, I'd be happy. I'd have everything I want, and I would never have any type of, but then I'm thinking, God had to really get a hold of me and say, no. I'm your great reward. This is what you need to be focused. This is what I've called you to. I've not called you to his life. I've called you to your life, and continue to pursue what I've asked you to, and be content with what I've given you. And it was a really good, big eye-opening, awakening thing for me. But it is a challenge for us men to do that.
And I think it is all the time for us, because I think we do compare, or we want this position, or we want that promotion, or all those kind of things like that. And that doesn't mean that if you're in a company that you don't want to do good work to better, but I think you can be content where you are doing excellence, with the prayer that maybe I will rise up in this company, but be content where you are while you're,
do excellence.
Does that make sense?
Honors God, inspires people.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I do think there is so much of this. It becomes ambition at that point in time, which you and I have talked about it, and we've talked about it in the past. Ambition is a very dangerous word, because it becomes about us and not what God is wanting to do through us as well, in that aspect of things.
Yeah, and I think the other thing I think, if we as the leader of the family, the husband in the situation, and we're not content, it bleeds all over your family.
Yep.
It goes to your wife, it goes to your kids, all that kind of things. And if you are content, then I think you're setting a great example for them. And you don't have to be perfect in it. And you can even say, man, I kind of got off track. Say that to your kids. They know when you do anyway. But you want to model those things for them so that they grow up being content with what they have.
Yeah, and they'll be happier for it by living that way than if they're living this world of trying to always get more and more. And you'll be happy as a family.
Yeah, and I think you have to learn and help your kids know to be content. And I think it is something you have to be in the world, but not be of the world. Yeah. And I'm not saying, okay, you stay content, so we stay off all social media, we stay off anything where there's ads, we don't do this, we don't do that. Yeah. And so we're all living in a closet, but we turn the light on for 8 hours a day. No, I think it's helping ourselves and our kids learn to live in this world, but to not fall into the traps of this world.
Yeah, and you're modeling that example as parents for you and your wife, and as a husband and the father and the leader of that family, you're also modeling. And we're all subject to it here in America. But if you can continue to say, hey, this is what's important, and our faith and our relationship with Jesus, but also his fulfillment in our lives, not what the world wants to fulfill in our lives. Yeah. You know as well as I do. But it's so easy to get off track, and so easy to start focusing on other things, and before you know it, everybody's just in this terrible state. And it's so easy to get like that because everybody's wanting what they don't have. And,
right.
And I'm just as good, but it's so easy to get caught up in that, and in just little things. Like you're just like, I didn't even know that I wanted that type of bread, or I wanted to. I see these Instagram, what do they call it? The highlight reels on social media. All these highlights. Oh man, look where they went on vacation.
Yeah.
I never thought I would be comparing myself to other people's vacations and saying I'm suck. I can't go to that. I got to go down to I got to go to the Bass Pro Shops or something like that. That's our vacation. We're going to check out some big fish. Or, well, that's but there's...
And they went deep sea fishing.
Like, that's a terrible example. Or I'll go to Arkansas. I'm like, man, when did I ever start comparing myself and not being content with what I have?
Yeah.
And I feel like the older I get, the harder it is.
I think it is, and I think because we're so connected now, and we know other things. We didn't have Facebook, social media, things where we had that stuff bombarded with it all the time. What helps me sometimes, there's some exotic vacation, I think, I bet they're fighting the whole time. It just helps me put a little damper on it,
Yeah, their marriage is failing, so that's good. Makes me feel better.
Nancy and I are going to spend the weekend in the Holodome here, and we're going to be content, so...
It's so good, but it does, and I feel like there's so much to contentment that really would benefit our lives. How and we've talked a little bit. Let's continue to talk. What does it look like? How does a contentment really improve our lives as a whole in different aspects of things? And
I think it helps anxiety. I think we can get anxious. I think get caught up in that just self-produced anxiety. I think when we're content, I think we have more of a peace. I think we think clearer. I think we think about the things that probably are more significant or more important. And that doesn't mean it has to be some great spiritual thing. It could be that, man, I love watching my daughter kicking the soccer ball around the backyard. And I'm so blessed in this. I'm thankful that we have a backyard. Even though it's 5 by 10, it's a backyard and she's got room to kick it. Not that, oh my gosh, I wish she had half an acre to kick that soccer ball in. No, and being content where you are and enjoying that. I think it keeps us from enjoying what we have and where we are, and especially relationships.
That's a good point, Dr. Kamen. When you're talking about how contentment does improve our lives, the lacking of certain things or focusing and shifting our perspective on things really does change so much of what it is.
Yeah,
I like the anxiety. I thought about how anxiety affects that.
It does. And so it's really healthier for us to be content. Because you're gonna, I don't know, the stress gets to us, and there's stress at not being content, and so the more we can do to lower those, the healthier we're gonna be.
I agree with you. So does when you are content and being content, does that mean that you stop improving?
Oh no.
I hear a lot of people say, well, if you're just content, then you just are good with whatever comes your way. You don't really stop growing, and because you're just content with everything. That's not what that means.
No, I don't think that's what Paul meant. He said, if I'm alive, what did Paul do? He wrote letters from prison. He continued to reach out. He shared the gospel with people. He shared the way to live a Christian life. So no, he was content. This is where I am. So how does God use me in this? Maybe that's the way to do it. Where am I? If I'm that what was that, the Chinese proverb or thing?
If they're pig farmers.
Yeah. So if I'm a pig farmer, that I'm okay with being a pig farmer and I enjoy it. And hey, we had a bunch of new pigs, so I'm a big pig farmer today. We had little pigs and
had a big old litter of sows. That's incredible. It's a great day. But you're and so many times I feel like when I talk to people, it's like if they're content, they feel guilty about it because they can't. There's something always, and man, it's so true when it comes to our contentment and how what it looks like to be, and this goes into our faith, but what it looks like to be still and know that He is God. Like there's, in our wiring, men's wiring per se, we always have to be going. We always have to be thinking of what's next. How do I accomplish? How do I conquer? How do I take over? And the contentment is such an oxymoron. It
is.
You shouldn't, at least for me, I don't want to be, if I'm content, there's something wrong with me. Yeah. And the Bible completely goes against that as far as what it's saying. It's like there's something about being still and knowing that you're not, because I think when we're not content, we try to control things. It's like I'm in control because I'm pushing and I'm moving and I'm growing. And when God says, hey, be content with me and where I have you right now, it's putting the control in His hands.
Yeah, no, I think that's perfectly said. It is, and it's like, okay, God, what do you want me to do?
Yeah,
and let Him guide you in that. And one of a good prayer is, God, help me not to get ahead of you.
Yeah,
and so just really letting God guide you, and He will open the doors. He will direct you in the things where He wants you to go. And if He wants you to be president of that company, be content as where you are, and when you're vice president, and do your best. And if God wants you to be president, you'll be president.
Yeah, and be okay with that. That's not easy to say. No. It doesn't mean that you stop improving. There's always opportunities. You jump into those opportunities if you feel like it's the best thing. But so often also in my own life, I pray that God bless this, as opposed to before I jump in, think, would you bless, where do you want me to be going? Where do you want me going? But I'll jump into it and they'll say, oh, now bless it because I'm already here and I need you to bless it. Where God is saying, and this is a great way to go into 2021 is like, okay, God, I'm going to sit down with you. I'm going to take some time. I'm going to listen. I'm going to study. where is it that you want me to go this year? And how do you allow the contentment in my heart to help direct and guide the Holy Spirit in the direction that He wants me to go, so that you're already preparing to be content, knowing that He's in control of the direction that you're going, and you're asking Him to bless that before, not after.
Absolutely. One of the things I think that I started doing a couple of years ago, because one of my friends, Terry Storch, recommended it, and there's a journal, it's called Bullet Journal, and I like it because I keep track of the books I read, but every day I make just a little entry, and the deal is you don't write a bunch. It's just like kind of bullet point entries of each day. And so I say that you decide that, okay, I'm going to work on contentment this year. And so you just keep that, and I think it helps you see your progress. Yeah. I think it helps hold you accountable to yourself, and I think that can be real helpful. And you can pick up a notebook. I just like the format of the bullet journal, and you can Google bullet journal and order them. They're not very expensive. But you can do something like that kind of gives you kind of a roadmap to do that. And I think it always helps. One thing I've been trying to do a lot more lately is, what's my end result? Well, end result this year is I want to be closer to God. So that's my goal. So I back that up. Okay, how do I do that? Well, okay, Monday I'm going to do this YouVersion plan. I'm going to pray with my wife. I'm going to pray alone. What are things I'm going to do?
Quantifiable goals. Is
absolutely. And so then when I get it in the year, I think, I grew.
Yeah,
I'm closer to God. But if I think about it in January and remember it again on 4th of July, and then I think, golly, it's the end of the year, I may be closer to God, but I haven't done anything intentional to get me there.
You can't look back in the beginning of the year and say, this is what happened to get me there. I'm just winged it.
And it will make it, any of those things will become habits, and I think you'll find yourself more content and more in tune with who God created you to be.
That's good. And when it comes to contentment and our faith in God and trusting Him with what we're doing, how much does contentment and trust coincide?
Oh, I think they're huge. Yeah, I think to say, hey, be content with God, and someone doesn't trust God, well, that's like saying, I don't know what, just, trust something that you don't trust. And so I think knowing who God is, the more we know who He is, the more we draw closer to Him, the more we trust Him with that. Because God, we may have this path that we think God should take us, and He may take us this path, and it's trusting Him that in the end, even though you don't see it now, that path is better.
Yeah. I love the passage of Genesis 22, which is one of my favorite chapters, one of my favorite chapters in the Bible is Abraham and Isaac, all sacrificing Isaac on the altar. And Abraham had learned some secrets to contentment, so that when God asked him to do something that was extreme when it comes to your faith, he was prepared to say, here I am. And whenever God asked him to do something, it was a simple, here I am, because he was content. And he was content in his relationship with God. He was content in his relationship in his faith. And so, so much of when you are content with God and it affects your faith and affects your trust with God. When you're in that aspect of things, you can be in a position to say, I trust you. And I'm content, and I will go where you want me to go, because when He's leading and moving, if you're not content, you're distracted by all these other things that are going on, right? But if you trusting in Him, and if you're listening and you're content in who He is, then when He says, here's where I want you to go, there's no hesitations. Here I am. I'm moving because I trust you, and I'm content with the way you've already led and guided my life. Is that correct?
Yeah. So do you think there's no other place that contentment starts besides God?
I do. I think that's the only place. If you don't have contentment, if you're looking for true contentment, in my opinion, as a believer in Jesus, true commitment comes from God, because it says that He has a pace that surpasses all understanding. And the world won't give you contentment because it continually wants to offer you more things. And God says, all you need is me.
Exactly.
That's, to me, is the true form of contentment.
Yeah.
You agree?
Absolutely. Yeah, because I was content for about a week when I got my iPhone 12.
Yeah.
That's just an iPhone 12. And by August, I'll be looking forward to iPhone 130 or whatever they call it.
Well, I've been...
and so, all of that, we have some things in life that gives, maybe it's more like just happiness or joy short term, but that contentment, I think, only comes through God.
Yeah. Well, I'm still rocking... a flip phone, because I've learned to be content with my flip phone. So
can you still look that up to any kind of a service? I mean, dude, there's some things about contentment, but it's also about being able to use it for what it's used for.
How do you live your life?
Yeah, nobody look. I can tell people I got a flip phone. I can't call on it. I can't get messages on it. I can't take photos on it. But I've got that flip phone.
I hit the 2 button 3 times. I finally get the C, and then I can text.
You remember that?
I do. I remember playing Snake on my phone. That was a big game, and you try to beat people and
Snake and Pong.
Oh yeah, those were the good old days.
Those were the first 2 video game kind of things that we had.
Yeah.
Wow, you're
now
old.
You have I am old. I was even thinking about that, and then we're off subject a little bit, but when we're talking about phones, like my mom listening in on my conversations on my phone because it was at home. We didn't have cell phones. You have the landline, and so you're talking on the phone to people, and she would pick up the phone without us knowing, quietly listening to my conversation with girls
absolutely.
or whatever it was. You can't do that anymore.
No.
Now you have to have screen time. You check their screen time and text messages.
A friend, and he had taken because your phone, you had the earpiece and you had the deal down here. Well, you can unscrew that and take the little speaker out, and then so you could listen over here. So he'd listen on his sister's conversations with her friends and stuff like that, and gather information to hold her hostage later on that. So how did we get to those? But
that's a good time.
Yeah, you didn't have. Do you remember? You probably don't remember this, but when my parents we had a kitchen phone for a while, and that was it.
Wow.
But they got the extra long cord. It was and I could take it all the way to my bedroom. And
that's a big deal.
Take that cord all the way in there.
That was 80 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, probably
100 years ago.
But just think about now. Our kids now, it's they got the phone, and I don't have a clue what they're doing on it.
It is true.
Yeah,
we're totally off subject, but that is technology, good and bad, has definitely
contentment. I was content when I had the phone with the long cord.
And now it's how do I get the newest iPhone that has the best pictures in there that I can, and it is crazy how the world continually wants us to get more and more.
Absolutely.
And learning to be content though is truly that. We just talked about trust and what that looks like in our faith. What are some attributes, and I know that you have, what are some attributes in our lives when you see someone that's truly content? What are some things you're looking at that person saying, man, I want what they have. They've got something figured out.
I think it's their whole countenance. I think you see a peace in them. And you I don't know, it's just the way they carry themselves. They don't really have to say anything sometimes, and you can look at someone and just think that they're content.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's a magic deal of identifying that. And then I've known people we had a lady that our family was really close to when I was growing up. She babysat for us and stuff like that. This lady had a strong faith. She was so content. She had not much, but she had God, and it just oozed out all over her. Yeah. She was so content, and she embraced the moments all the time. She wasn't a babysitter. She was teaching us, and she was telling us about Jesus, and she was helping us do things that were fun, and she embraced those moments and was so content.
So absolutely 100% agree with you and what that looks like. And it is something that, do you feel like we are more content? There are more people content today or less content because of what we have? Do you see more and more?
Yeah, I think we're less content. I don't know. Honestly, if I picked everybody, all my friends, people I see in counseling, people at church, golly, maybe a handful of people that I would say are really content. Now, that doesn't mean people aren't Christians and strong, but I think we're always fighting this battle with the world. And so I think as Christians, we have to continue to fight that battle. That doesn't mean you don't get a car. That doesn't mean you don't have a nice house. But it's putting things in the proper priority. What does God want you? And if you're putting Him first, I think the rest of things fall into place. You may not have that $10 million house,
right?
But you're going to have a roof over your head, and you're going to have the people you love around you.
Yeah.
And is there anything better than that? I had a young woman one time, and she was probably 16, and she was her dad was an attorney, and he had done really well, but he was kind of on this treadmill. Had developed this big firm, and he was gone a lot, and there were some other issues that happened in the family. And we sit there, and she said, my first 10 years, we lived in this little house in this small part of the city. I wish we were back there. To her, Dad was home every night. The family was together. He wasn't on the treadmill. And now it was, and it affected the whole family. So now I said, and she said, we're always together. They lived in probably at that point like a 5,000 square foot house, maybe. They never saw each other.
Wow.
They didn't eat dinner together. Everybody went their own way. She said it's so lonely in that house.
That's crazy. That's such a great story. And I like what you said as far as what your picking your priorities. Contentment really does start with priorities. You can have the crazy awesome things at the same time, but it's like, are you holding them loosely? Are you giving of yourself? Are you giving of your time? Are you giving of your finances? Like, who owns the stuff that you're doing? And I think true contentment comes from who is truly over and in charge of the thing. Are you feeling these are all yours? Or are you saying, actually, at the end of the day, it's not mine, it's all God's?
Yeah.
There you go. I'm giving more than I'm receiving, and I'm learning to what it looks like to be truly content in trusting God in the way that he handles everything that I have and giving it back to him fully.
Yeah.
And you can get to that level. You get to a spot where that doesn't matter, like you were saying, what kind of house you have, what kind of car you got. It's God's anyway, and we're going to continue to move and give above and beyond. Man, those are some of the people that I see are the most content in their lives.
Yeah, I was thinking, so my neighbor gets that car, so I get the car just like it, and the next day God says, I need you to give that away.
Yeah.
Can you do that? Is that real contentment? I think probably is.
It is. It's definitely, you have your priorities straight too. For that fact. That's what matters.
And to do it joyfully.
Yes. That's where it happens.
That just messed my mind up a little bit.
Yeah. I have to go, and I wonder if that works for giving away kids, because that worked the same way for them.
You've tried so many ways to give away your kids, and they'll keep coming back, correct?
They just keep coming back as well. You know what?
But we're done, right? 6 is it?
Yeah, we're done. We're not having any more.
Half a dozen.
Issues with that, but love them to pieces. And as much as I joke about that, there are the contentment of just having my kids and my family. That's a lot.
Absolutely.
Like, thank you, God, for what I have, and let me be content. That's a great thing you do every day. I love what you said about you pray every day that you'll have your heart for your wife. You'll have a desire for your wife every day. Same thing goes for praying for God. Give me the contentment and desire to be content with what you have given me.
Absolutely.
And focus on what other people don't have, so I can be more of a blessing to them. Right?
Yeah. And hey, guys, we don't do this perfect.
No.
We work at it just as hard as you do. But hopefully what you see with us talking about, we're on the same boat, and we're all trying to become better men that God created us to be. And just sharing our thoughts on these things to help you.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you all blessed us tremendously. Awesome marriage. So you guys exemplify what it looks like to give and to be models of that on a regular basis and to be content with what you have. So thank you for setting that example. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
As always, you guys can continue to subscribe and ask, find people, say, we love what we're doing. We enjoy Dr. Kim and I, what we get the opportunity to do and be a part of a Better Man podcast. So invite your friends to subscribe to what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Reach out to us as well. Questions that you might have, anything that you guys might want to know more about, reach out to us. We'd love to help you. And then also as a group, you can go ahead and there's questions on the page there that you guys can ask your group of men if you have a community there, they're looking for ways to interact.
Accountability partner, whatever it is, just or just read them yourself if you're not at that point yet, and kind of learn from it and grow. And the big thing is next steps. So after we hear this, what are you going to do? What is there something in your life that could, if you eliminated or changed or rethought, would give you more contentment? And so I think, and it starts with prayer.
It does start with prayer. Prayer is absolutely, and where your focus is, your priorities. What's first? Is God first? And honestly, that's where prayer and God, that's contentment. That's where it starts at. So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll be back here in about a month with our next podcast.
Yeah.
And appreciate you guys continue to live that content life, and don't be an okay man.
Be a better man.
See you.
See you next month.